My name is Victoria. I'm one of the estate planning attorneys for the Kopenbarger Law Firm. I'm joined today by Kelly Dippel, one of the best realtors I've had a chance and pleasure to work with. And we're here to help illuminate different topics in the estate planning realm and the real estate realm. These are two areas of practice that really overlap because while at Kopenbarger we're focused on protecting your future and the assets that you've developed, it is imperative that we work alongside a real estate agent, not only who understands the importance of how to title a piece of property, but also someone who can be there if a loved one has passed or if a loved one is at a point that they can no longer stay in their family home. Kelly is a fantastic resource for our clients, and we look forward to being able to hear from her today. Now let's get started. First and foremost, I do want to make sure that it is clear this is for educational purposes only. This does not address specific people's issues. And so if you do have specific questions, today is going to help educate what those questions may center around. But again, I encourage you to take advantage of those consultations to nail things down more specifically for your situation. At Kopenbarger, for those of you who don't know us or it's been a while since you've seen us, we are a full-service estate planning firm. What that means is not only do we do estate planning, we also do business and tax and advance planning. We do estate administration and estate litigation. So if you have a business, a rental property, an estate that is a higher net worth, if you have lost a loved one or you're in the position of being a trustee or beneficiary, or God forbid, you end up in a situation where you have to go to court, we are able to be there to walk alongside you or the family. We have an incredible staff that has been helping us serve clients since 1979, and we have offices all over the state. Kelly and Kopenbarger both, we are able to help you in the state of California. And so if you have a question about a property that's near you, or if you need to be in our San Jose office or our Temecula office, this is emphasizing that, again, we're full service for the full state. So let's get started on the estate planning side. With estate planning, it is imperative that people plan when they can. One of the hardest things that we see is when someone delayed too long and they lose the competency to still set documents up. It is one of the things that if you gamble, you may end up too late to be able to put your wishes in place and make sure that things are properly taken care of, and it can lead to some disasters. So what we want to really emphasize is how to avoid those avoidable disasters. So first and foremost, what documents do you actually need? For most people, it is a set of documents. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It really is important that you have a tailored plan to make sure that your wishes are carried out when you're no longer able to, and that you are properly protected, whether it's due to incapacity or end-of-life decisions. The first one that every person over 18 needs is an advanced healthcare directive. As soon as you turn 18, no one has an automatic right to make medical decisions for you. Not a spouse, not a parent, not a child. And so if you don't have the ability to give verbal instruction to a physician, you need to have the ability to put it in writing so that they have that authority when you can no longer give it in the moment. Without this, unfortunately, the court can have to get involved to determine who can act on your behalf and what decisions they're allowed to make. Anytime you're incapacitated, this is preaching to the choir, but you are vulnerable. And so we want to really drill down on the fact that you want to make sure who has the authority to act on your behalf was your decision and in your control, and the decisions that end up being made, especially for end of life, like organ donation or life support, that you had the opportunity to make those ahead of time and aren't being put in the hands of someone that may not actually know your wishes. It's also important to note you need a healthcare directive that was done after 2004. If you do not have a directive since 2004, it is no longer valid. And so it is imperative that you have one that is current and up to date. It's also imperative that as people move, your relationships change, that the person you have in place really is the right person. So we encourage people to take these out and look at them every year and to review them with their attorney every 3 to 5 years to ensure they are correct. The next document that you need is a durable or financial power of attorney. This is, again, important if you can no longer make decisions, but for financial reasons. This says you can't sign a check, you don't know how to pay bills anymore due to Alzheimer's or a stroke. Something has gone wrong where you are incapacitated to the point you can't manage your own finances. This is a document that's also extremely important when dealing with real property. If you needed to sell a piece of property, let's say you were a married couple and the one spouse is now incapacitated and needs an advanced level of care, the other spouse is going to move into the facility with the person or into a different level of care, and you want to sell the home in order to use assets for the new level of care that is needed. If your spouse does not have the authority to sign on both of your behalves, you can end up in a nightmare situation where you can't move forward. Or if you're the child of a parent who's incapacitated and the home needs to be sold, you're not on title and you don't have legal authority to just sign it away. You have to have it in writing that you are able to do that and to manage these assets on behalf of someone else. The same can be said for retirement, bank accounts, any of your assets. Somebody has to have the authority in writing to act on your behalf. And again, if they don't, the court may need to get involved. It is also imperative to note that these are being rejected if they are older than 5 years old by most financial institutions. So if you don't know if you have a current document or you know that you don't, now is the time to come in and see us. As I keep mentioning, if you don't have a healthcare or you don't have a durable power of attorney, the court needs to get involved if you are incapacitated, and that is in the form of a conservatorship. Conservatorships are nightmares for people because the person that needs care is incapacitated badly enough they can't make decisions for themselves anymore and cannot appoint you. This can lead to delays in doctor's appointments and medications. This can lead to delays in having the financial resources that are necessary, the delay in being able to sign a contract to even put them in the necessary facility and level of care that they need. So not having those documents can lead to an absolute wall that you run into that only the court can tear down. That means it's more expensive, more time consuming, more stressful, and very easily avoidable with those first two documents. Next, do you need a will or do you need a trust? So most people that we meet with need a trust because wills are extremely limited in California. They are only protective enough if you do not own real property of any kind, or you have less than $850,000. If you're over those thresholds, you unfortunately are not going to be protected, or your estate is not going to be protected fully with a will. And so again, most of our clients, if they've owned a home for 30 years and it's now worth $1 million, a will isn't going to keep your property out of probate, even if when you bought it, it was $100,000. We're looking at the value today. And so again, wills often don't do it. Unfortunately, with a will, if you pass and your estate was only protected by a will, it has to then go through probate, which is the court that kicks in after you have died. Probate is a public record. It is extremely time consuming and often significantly increased in costs that are applied to the attorney needs, to your executor fees, to the court costs. And so across the board, unfortunately, going through probate is a negative. The other issue is it limits what you can do. What that means is after you pass away, you are under the court's rules. As far as what you could have done to protect your estate from taxes, you are extremely limited. Versus with a trust, you can set up additional provisions and things to cut down on unnecessary taxes. So that is why for most of our clients, we talk about living trusts. The purpose here is to set your plan up ahead of time, to make sure that before you have passed away, you have set out who's going to take care of the finances if you're incapacitated, beyond the financial power of attorney. It will set up who is going to inherit and when. Because just because you have 3 children doesn't necessarily you want them to all inherit equally and at the same time. If you have minors, if you have a beneficiary who has financial issues, if they have a substance abuse issue, if there's special needs and we want to ensure they don't lose their government benefits. Your living trust allows you to protect your inheritors either from outside predators, from themselves, or your estate from unnecessary financial implications. Now, I keep mentioning home ownership. For those of you who own a piece of real property, whether it's in California or out of the state, it is imperative to make sure that that property is put in under the name of your trust. With living revocable trusts, putting it under that trust won't change your property taxes or your ownership abilities, but it is the step that ensures it does not go through court when you pass. And that is, again, why working with a real estate agent who knows to ask even that simple question. Do you already have a trust? Are you planning to get a trust? And if the answer to those is no, here's who to talk to. Because when that step gets missed, the property may still have to go through court, even if you had a trust, but it wasn't titled in it. So titling is an extremely important part of this process. We are happy to talk to you about that if you have questions. And if you're working with a real estate agent, you want to make sure you're working with one, again, who understands how important that step is. Now, another thing with trust is it avoids probate, which means it stays private. For most of us, we don't want our private information to become public even after we've passed away. I certainly don't want my family information or my asset information being being made part of public record. The other thing is addressing incapacity issues. One of the things we see lacking in most trusts that we review that were done by outside people, sometimes attorneys, sometimes not, is it doesn't address incapacity. You need to have that addressed of if I become incapacitated, who has the authority to determine that and remove me from a position of control? Because if you haven't named somebody to do that, the court has to do it, which again, we are trying to avoid. Your trust also allows for advanced tax planning. So one of the things when we're looking at your estate is what taxes can be avoided. One of the biggest taxes we talk about right now is Proposition 19, which deals with people inheriting your property after you have passed away. Right now, most properties that are inherited get reassessed, and there is very limited exception to that rule. But there are planning ways to help avoid that unnecessary tax increase. But the only way to do it is to have done it beforehand. One question we just had is how did we come up with the 208,000? That is California's probate number. So each year we look at what is California setting as their probate threshold. And if you're above that threshold, you need a trust. But again, California dictates what that 208,000 is. Okay. Now, we do understand that things happen. Sometimes people forget to do something. They choose not to title an asset. There's a variety of reasons that when a person dies, we discover assets are improperly protected. So what we did ahead of time is for Koppenbarger clients, we have created what is called a pour-over will. So this is a will that works alongside your trust. It's essentially telling the court, you don't get to control the asset. It has to be given back to my trust and administered according to those terms. This is especially important if you have not a completely straightforward situation. You have minors. Again, you have people who have special needs. You have kids who need protection from those outside predators or from themselves. There's a variety of reasons that the court rules are not the ones you want to be subjected to. So your will ensures that those wishes you set up in your trust are actually carried out. Now, beyond revocable planning, there is a significant world at your fingertips for planning and protection. For some people, they have estates that need significant protection to ensure that unnecessary taxes are not applied. I've mentioned special needs beneficiaries. That is a category of people who often are left extremely vulnerable when their parent or loved one dies. A special needs beneficiary can receive an inheritance, But if they're on government benefits, it has to be done through a specific trust to avoid losing those benefits. If it is not done correctly, your best intentions can end up being their worst nightmare after you are gone. So it is imperative that when we're looking at these different categories, that you ask questions. We would much rather hear from someone and the question be a simple answer than it not be asked and someone is left with a mess to clean up after the person is already gone. Pausing for a second just to look at the questions. The tax assessment. So with Proposition 19, essentially what has happened is people, when you pass away, any property except your primary residence will automatically be reassessed, unfortunately. There is no way around that at this point. However, with your primary residence, if it transfers to a child who also claims it is their primary, it can avoid the property tax hike. But let's use a scenario where you have 3 children and you've left a property to all 3 children. If after you've left that property and they inherit it, one child says, hey, can I buy you guys out and live in the property? And the other 2 say, yep, no problem. 2/3 of that property get reassessed because that is considered a child-to-child transfer. But if under your trust you put language that says, child A, who I think is the most likely, before distributions are made, you can decide that you would want to level things out and you'd own the property, but they would walk away with other assets. You can do so, which allows that child who would then live in it to keep the full property tax base. So that is, again, where language needed to be put in before the person passes, because if after they pass, the kids inherit it and decide to do things on their own after the fact, they can end up with an avoidable property tax increase, but only avoidable by that pre-planning. So thoughtful planning makes a huge difference. The other piece is as your life changes, it is imperative to make sure your documents change. Estate planning is not a set point in time. It needs to evolve with your life. If when you first did a trust, you had minors who are now adults, you have different protection concerns than when they were minor children. If you were single and now married, or married and now single, again, these are big milestone components that can trigger a need to update your documents. And neglecting that can lead to outdated plans, can lead to confusion when you've passed away, infighting that, well, yeah, mom wrote that, but that was 30 years ago. And now she told me she wants me to have the house. Those sort of things, when they're not properly kept up to date, again, can lead to huge issues when you are no longer here. So planning, it protects your assets, it protects you, it protects your family, it preserves your legacy. We hate seeing estates that didn't have proper planning and that after someone passes, their legacy starts getting chipped away. Because legacy is not just money. A lot of times it is, what are we doing with the finances? But a huge piece of it is, what is the memory left? When there is unnecessary fighting that could have been avoided after, it is heartbreaking to see. And so it, again, if nothing else from today, come and ask us questions. Let's make sure that all of these different people in your life and you specifically have the protections that are needed. So I mentioned earlier, we recommend our clients pull their documents out at least once a year. Just take a quick look at them, make a quick gander and say, yeah, that looks correct. And if it doesn't, come in and see us. And then we also recommend you come in every 3 to 5 years to review it with us, not only to ensure that the life change component is accounted for, but also to ensure that legal changes have been accounted for. As I mentioned, Proposition 19 was something that happened in 2021, and most people still don't know about it. So that is why meeting with us, we're able to update you on what in the law may have shifted to make sure that you and your estate and your family are protected. Pausing for a question, can we add language when we don't agree with the choices of an adult? Absolutely. You have control over the document. And very frankly, as long as it is legal, we can craft it to you. Our job is to go through the pros and cons of different language and let you know this will work really well and be clear, or we need to adjust this because it could lead to confusion. but you can absolutely add language as long as it is legal. Another really important point to make: an email is not enough to completely change or update a trust. Handwriting all over your documents can be catastrophic. It is extremely important that if or when you want to make changes to the trust or to the other documents, that it is done correctly. A lot of people think they can go through and just scratch things out or add things in. And what that can lead to is, after you're gone, that provision being invalid, leading to confusion and conflict, and sometimes invalidating the full document. Emailing me, this is what I want, signed and dated. That in and of itself is not enough to change a provision of the document. There are very strict rules that a lot of times, if you Google it, sound very simple. It sounds like, yeah, just handwrite something out and you'll be set. But when you follow what's online, a lot of times they have taken the full picture of the law and simplified it into a really short article that doesn't actually give you the full scope of what needs to happen. So listening to AI, while it's a good tool, Googling things, even just reading an article, even just watching a webinar, is not in and of itself enough to ensure that you are properly protected and that documents are kept up to date. You need and want to work with a qualified professional to make sure things are done correctly, to avoid these preventable disasters after you are gone. So again, for updating beneficiaries, we're changing who would be in charge or changing who would make your decisions. Those are things that have to be done correctly and with a lawyer. At least we say they should be done with a lawyer. Adding or removing assets, however, that is one power that at Koppenberger we have put in our client's control. So if you're confused or concerned about how you can specifically add or remove assets without our involvement, please come and speak with us. But that is one very narrow category that we have given the power to clients. The other things that get changed, at a minimum, come and talk to us first. I'm going to pause just to check the chat really quickly. One of the questions that just came in, I'm going to type an answer to you when Kelly is speaking, so I do see it, but we're going to pause. On capital gains taxes, which is the other question, I don't know if there's more of a specific question, but with capital gain tax, it really depends on property when in time you're selling that piece of property. So if you're selling it during life versus you've inherited a property and it's being sold after someone's death, is going to really dictate the answer to that question of what is the capital gain and what do you need to factor in. So we can either speak more specifically afterwards, or if you have more of a specific scope, feel free to use the chat. International assets, are they covered? So the answer there is sometimes. It can depend on the asset and it can depend on where in the world it is. And so that's a question I would also have more of a specific one-on-one conversation about. Going back to making changes, updating your guardianship provisions. So who, if you, God forbid, passed away before your child was 18, who would manage or take care of them when you no longer can? That is a huge provision that you need to make sure was done correctly. And again, jotting things out or crossing something out, that can lead to big issues. I think I've emphasized that enough, but if you have any other questions on what can a client do specifically versus what should the attorney do, again, take advantage of that consultation. With that, I am going to stop talking for a little bit and now turn it over to Kelly. As I mentioned in the beginning, Kelly is a phenomenal real estate agent who works tirelessly for her clients. But not only does she do the real estate, her team is able to help people, especially when they're in a transition period. One of the things we see is as people age and have to move out of their home, they have a lot of stuff. And there's often a lot of confusion on what can I do and who can I turn to? So having a full service real estate agent who goes beyond just the buy and sell component can be a crucial component. So I'm now going to turn it over to Kelly.
Hello, everyone. So I'm having a little bit of problems since I'm not able to see any of the slides. So I'm going to go ahead and I will be talking to the slides that I have, and I'm going to say next, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So bear with me, just a little bit of issues on my side, I think. But hello, my name is Kelly Dippel. I am with Coldwell Banker in Los Gatos. And in addition to traditional real estate, I also specialize in helping seniors and their families transition smoothly into their next chapter of their journey. I offer full service, stress-free real estate solutions. And today we are going to be talking about simplifying the process, exploring your best options, and importantly, protecting yourself from scams. So if we can turn it to, is it time for a change slide? Is
Done.
it time for a change? So are you experiencing that you want more freedom? Maybe you want less maintenance. Maybe you want to move closer to family, maybe better health care, different health care. Maybe you want a safer home. Maybe the stairs are providing a problem, warmer climate. I mean, I know that my arthritis was killing me last night. Um, Maybe you are looking into an active adult living community or something of that nature. There's so many different options out there. Next slide. The downsizing journey. So let's talk about that because it can be very overwhelming. A lot of my clients tell me that it's just completely overwhelming when they start thinking about what can they take, what can they leave. Well, we can help create a floor plan that will show you what furniture you can reasonably take onto your journey. I always say start with the non-sentimental rooms and areas of your home because it is so overwhelming. The 4 box method, this is really important and it keeps things a little bit more simple. You put things into 4 categories. What do you want to keep? What do you want to donate or gift? What do you want to sell? And then what do you need to discard and shred? And we can help you with that, connecting you with trusted resources. Also, when you're going through your home, a lot of people have boxes and boxes of photos, important letters, financials. A lot of those things can be digitized, and there's companies that do that very, very simply. And we can connect you with people that can help you with that part of your downsizing journey as well. Next slide. So the downsizing journey, think of it as 3 different buckets. You have your very valuable items. So these are the things that maybe they're too big or they're things that you don't want to give away, but maybe you want to sell them. So you can consult an appraiser who can give you a value for the different items. Maybe you have artwork or collectibles. There's estate liquidators, and they can come in and they will go through, think of it as like a glorified garage sale, but they will come in and they will sell everything that's left. And then whatever is left over from the sale, they can haul away, they can donate, help you with some tax write-offs at the end. And then there's also consignment shops, and consignment shops are pretty selective of what they take, but you can also take some of your items and take them to a consignment shop. Gifting early, maybe you have jewelry, like I said, collectibles and art, and maybe you want those to go to specific people. Well, if it's something that you're not planning on taking with you, consider maybe giving those away now. Or, of course, you can talk to Victoria or the Copenbarger team about writing down your wishes so that way you make sure that your special things go to these specific people in your life. And then I always tell people to pack an open first box. And basically what this is, it's an essential box of things like your medication, special clothing, your glasses, things that you would need when you move, you know exactly where they are. So you're not going through different boxes trying to find these things. New slide. We kind of talked about estate liquidation. Just make sure you work with a trusted team because there's different estate liquidators. They do different things and they charge different prices. So just make sure that you have somebody that you trust and we can connect you with somebody. Next slide. Exploring your options. So there's basically three different things to think about: selling, renting, and reverse mortgage. And selling's not always the right decision. So selling, there is benefits and considerations for all of the 3 different ways that you can go. Selling is if you need a large sum of money up front, maybe you're relocating to a different area. The benefits is that you walk away with the proceeds immediately. You're free of the maintenance and the requirements and the insurance of home ownership. And then, of course, you have the tax deduction benefits. But some considerations, there's costs when you are selling your home. We can prepare a net sheet that can give you an idea of what your true proceeds would be based on different scenarios for sale price and expenses and what your loan payoff and some of those things are. And then, of course, renting. Some people don't want to get rid of their family home, and maybe you want to rent it out and it gives you some cash flow. Some of the benefits are you do get that cash flow, and it will help you in potential gains of the capital gains. But considerations to think about is you need to get a property manager involved, and now you're dealing with landlord obligations, wear and tear on the house, and then, of course, you're going to be losing some of those tax deduction benefits. And then a reverse mortgage. A lot of people decide that this is the best thing for them, especially if they're needing in-home care, which is very, very expensive because you must remain in the home during this process. And it allows you to access your home equity as a cash lump sum. It delays the potential capital gains. So the considerations, you must be 62 years or older. The loan balance does increase over time, and it's a very costly alternative. And if you pass away or if you move out of the home, you have 6 months to sell that asset and pay back the reverse mortgage company. New slide. So always, always, always explore your options and get financial advice from your financial advisor or an attorney before you decide which direction is best for you, because each category it works for some, it's not for everybody. So just make sure you get your financial advice from an attorney or your financial advisor. New slide. So if you do determine that selling your home makes sense for you, especially here in Silicon Valley where everyone is so busy, buyers are really wanting more turnkey so they can go back to work. So really consider curb appeal. Your first impression is your best impression. So think about coordinating some of the repairs and updates, a fresh coat of paint, landscaping, some deep cleaning, decluttering, of course, professional staging and photography to really maximize buyer interest. Most buyers will see your home online first, and that's really important. The whole idea is minimizing your effort and maximizing the value of your home, right? New slide. So moving with care, packing, hauling, shredding, moving, estate liquidations. There's so much involved, and we can help you coordinate everything or connect you with a trusted resource that they can help you coordinate the move. Just to make it easy on you and stress-free. So new slide, how my team can help you. So we offer free consultation services, property assessments, Zillow, homes.com, Redfin. I mean, they're all out there and there's more on the horizon. Those are algorithms and those are not accurate of what your home's value really is. My team can provide resources for home updates, repairs, staging, painting, you name it, we can provide it, and it can all be built through the close of escrow. Even if you're not working with me, I offer you to contact me and I'm happy to provide trusted resources that we've worked with that we trust. New slide. So this slide is it's actually pretty timely. So I don't know if you guys saw this morning on the news, PG&E just had over 21,000 users got scammed out of about $300,000 total. So we've discussed the downsizing, we've discussed options when you're ready to make your move, preparing your home for sale, moving with ease, but this is the scary stuff behind the scenes that I work with a lot of seniors and their families and my dad, my mother-in-law. It's just something that a lot of people fall victim to these. And so I always like to include this because it's so, so important. So let's talk about just a few of these things to be aware of. So real estate scams. I just got a phone call this morning. So it's a phone call or a knock on your door, somebody saying that we just noticed that you need this or that to your house. And, we're going to be in the area to provide that service, whether it's a new roof or windows or whatever. Always work with a reputable contractor. Don't get involved with somebody who is knocking on the door or making a cold call. Work with trusted resources. And again, I can connect you. Title fraud, scammers will forge documents and try to steal your title. Scary but true. Monitor your mail, your tax bills. If you feel that you're not receiving official notices, contact your provider immediately and find out what's going on. Reverse mortgage fraud, again, there's so much money involved in reverse mortgage. They will provide sometimes free lunch or seminars, and it's a super high pressure tactic to try to get you to sign over. Again, always work with a trusted, independent, reputable company, and always, always, always get advice from your financial advisor or your attorney before you do something like that. And then lastly, every time you turn on the TV, you're going to see we buy houses off market, cash offers. Be careful with those. You will always make more if you put your home on the open market. You need buyers to see it. That's what raises the price of your home and the value. And I'm not going to say that these are all scams, but some of them are. So just be real careful. If it seems too good to be true, it certainly could be. New slide. So financial scams. Now this is, like I said, super timely because this falls into the category of the PG&E. I've had several of my clients fall victim to these types of things. IRS, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, banks calling saying that you're maybe late on payments and they need payments, or they're going to turn your PG&E off, or your bank, you're late on your bank. No government agency, no utility company will ever call you and ask you for personal information or data. They're not going to ask you to wire money. They're not going to ask you to pay anything. Hang up. If you're unsure, call a loved one, call somebody that you trust, explain what happened, call the bank directly and ask them, is my account passed? Is something going on? But hang up immediately. Don't even engage with these guys. This other one, grandparent scam, especially with AI, this is getting pretty scary. They can call you and act like they are one of your loved ones. They could even have your loved one's picture as they're calling that they've pulled from social media. So it really may sound like maybe it's one of your loved ones. They're in distress, they're stuck in a different country, something's going on. Maybe they were in a car accident. Hang up. Consider having maybe a family secret password that you can ask the caller. Otherwise, hang up, call your loved one directly and see what's going on. Investment seminars and scams of that nature, that's where somebody's going to call you or try to get you to come to a seminar where they have this really great idea that they want you to invest in. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Talk to your financial planner, talk to your attorney, get advice. And then lastly, sadly, I have a client that just fell victim to this, and he lost $500,000. He was told that he had just won a sweepstakes and he had to pay the taxes up front. And so he wired them money for months before he told us about it. We hear about these all the time, and they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So if you get a phone call from somebody and they said you just won a sweepstakes and you need to pay some fees or taxes up front, hang up, hang up. So new slide. Again, this is just a short list. And with AI, there's so much more. And these scammers are getting very, very savvy. Protect yourself. I always tell my clients, especially my senior clients, keep a reminder by the phone, by your front door, by your computer, anywhere where this sort of engagement can happen, that just reminds you to stop, hang up, and call. And when I say call, I'm saying call your loved one, call your financial advisor, call your attorney, call somebody that you trust to explain what just happened so they can help you understand, was this real or was it fraudulent activity? If you do suspect fraud, stop communicating. Never, ever, ever give personal information over the phone or over the internet. Never, ever, ever send money over the phone or over the internet. And contact your local police, contact the FBI's internet. I have it's ic3.gov. So I'm here To help you, I'm here to be your trusted advisor. If you have any questions or anything you would like to discuss, you can take a photo of my information. My information is also in the chat. If you have any questions, you can put them in the live chat or you can reach me directly. I'm happy to help you. Not bad without slides, huh?
Thank you, Kelly. That was perfect. Thank you so much. Well, hopefully, you guys found this to be extremely helpful. One of the things that you'll see in the chat is a survey for us. We want to make sure that these webinars and these videos really are tailored to what our clients need. And so, when we're talking about what do you need, what education videos do you want to see? What topics do you want to see us present on? So we are here to help you, whether that's Kopenbarger directly, whether that's Kelly, or it's a combination of the two. We are here to help. So please feel free to reach out. I will hang around for a bit and answer any other questions that I'm able that come through the chat or the Q&A. Otherwise, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.